So we are up to Chaf Hey Amid Aleph. I think, no, sorry, Chav Dalet Amid Aleph. So we finished the Gemara till Amar of Kahana. We didn't finish all the Rashis. So we got to Panim Chadashos. So Panim Chadashos. So the concept was that because we've proved from the case of the sandal that we ultimately view it as a new shoe, and as such the medris is off, and all the tumah that's left is the maga medris, which makes you into only a rishon, not an av, which as a result will impact the Chizkiya's question, which he asked of Yochanan about the bowl that you opened up slowly but surely, step by step, larger than a rimon, which will have an additional effect, a ripple effect into our shaila about the wall surrounding the karfeif. So Param Chadashos, Rashi, about 6-7 lines from the bottom. Einaznaim halalu mimenu. These are these new flaps or ears, so to speak, of the are not from the old the old sandal. Mishnit kulo darsan hazav. From the time that it was fixed, when you put these ears, these patches, these flaps back on, you never lo darsan hazav. There was no a placement of the foot and the pressure of the weight of the person on to the shoe. The Zav didn't put on the shoe subsequently. So therefore you can't talk about a new Tumas Medris. You got to talk about the old Tumas Medris. The old Tumas Medris is gone because the pressure was never placed newly, and the old one doesn't have the flaps anymore. So you look at the shoe, in a sense, vis-a-vis the issue of Tumas Medris as a brand new shoe, and therefore the old Medris is gone. Umituma Rishona Tiaru, and from its original state of tumit now has become purified because it is an unusable shoe as it relates to the old tumah. Shir'ein zeh sandal rishon. This is not the original sandal. This is a new sandal which was never used by Ezav, and therefore we're good as far as the tumah is concerned. The tumah Zav is gone. Les din barnash. Elamalach, this man is not a mere mortal, he's like an angel. That was the statement according to one version, or according to the second version, Kigoin Din Barnash. A man like this is a man. This is somebody special. Adam Gadol, he's a truly great, special individual. Okay, so that takes us to the next Gemara. We finish this one. Moving along in the Eruvin here, not, again, we know not the easiest Gemaras, but Baruch Hashem, we're plowing through it. So, V'yomar of Nach, 1 second. So, Omar of Kahana. So, Rav Kahana says as follows: Rechava sharchei abatim. If you have a back lot that's behind houses, which we have said many times, there really was no direct conduit from the house to the batim. It wasn't from the house to the rechava. This was not a place that was generally used. It was the front yard that was a constant flow. But the back lot was pretty much an empty, just place where there's just empty land. So as such, a metaltalim boy el badalanamas. If it's more than 2 beisos, then it has a din of a karfeif shaloi hukah fladira yosim beisasayim, and the rules are you cannot carry, but for dalanamas, like no different than any other karmelis, which is prohibited to carry more than dalanamas. So Rashi, you have no opening from the back of the house to the rechava, so which was again, par for the course not to have these openings. There was no real reason to have a door from the back of your house to get to the backyard, because backyards weren't used in those days for any real reason, unless you change things. But typically, this was normal. And therefore, it's not hookah for dira. And if it was more than 2 beisas, that's you've crossed the threshold. It has a din of a carmelis, which cannot be carried in more than 4 amas. Okay, but if things change, Rav Nachman said, "Im posach le pesach mutal tatal bekuloi." If you built an opening which now makes it hookah for dira. Well, let's put it this way: it's now, it's surrounded now for the purpose of using it, because you just made a doorway from the back of your house to the karfeif, clearly indicating that you wanted to now use it as a extension of your living quarters. And now it's residential in nature. Now you're allowed to carry in the entire house. Okay, Rashi. Okay, if you opened up an opening from the house to the backyard, you can carry the entire karfeif. Okay, Pesach matira. Why? Because the doorway matters the karfeif. But when does the door matter the karfeif? Because we're already thinking, well, wait a minute. What about the walls were never enclosed for that purpose? So what do you mean the walls, the doorway matter the karfeif? How did that work? This is not true that the doorway matters the karfeif. That if you first you built the doorway, rendering the area now residential in nature, because it's an extension of your house with this new doorway, and then you built the walls around the karfeif, around the rechava. If you did that, then you're good to go, because you turned it into residential usage. Then you made the wall. So, of course, that's going to render it good, which is at this point pretty obvious. Okay, so once, Gemara wants to know. Right, Gemara says Posach Matiro, a hukav. Right, V'yomran. Right, back to V'yomran, but 7 lines up from the bottom. Chav Daled Amud Aleph. V'yomran El Shepasach Lubsov Hukav. And this is only true when you first opened the door, and then you opened the doorway, and then you made the fencing around it. Avol Hukav. But if it was first fenced already prior to the opening of the doorway, Lubsov Pasach, and then you opened the doorway and built this. Connection between the house and the rechava, meaning that it was already enclosed not for the purposes of residential use, and now you want to change it by simply and merely building a doorway. Loy, okay, but it doesn't work. Like we said yesterday, you have to surround it with this expressed focus of making it hukaf ladira. Here it was already hukaf shalo ladira, and now it's a mere opening of the doorway is not going to cut it. So Gemara says, well, this is pretty obvious stuff. If you opened it, and then if you open the doorway and then you made the fencing, and now you want to tell me you can carry, well, hello, of course, pshita. Why? That's obvious. I mean, that's like any situation where it's perfectly aligned to make it permissible. But there's no chiddush here. This is something that I've already established many times already through Mishnayos and Brises. I don't need an Amayra to tell me that this is okay. More answers. Well, there's a chiddush here. What's a chiddush? So tricha de islay the isbei beidori. The specific case we're talking about is this rechava. Okay, this back lot also had a granary there, some kind of threshing floor, which was used for business purposes of producing grain. So Maratema daita the beidori avde. I might think that maybe it was made when you made the opening. It wasn't made for the purposes of the use of residential, but rather maybe to service the Beidari, and apparently servicing the Beidari wouldn't be considered residential use. And as far as taking stuff out of the house, maybe it was just used to access the Beidari, which is not viewed as a residential purpose, Kamash from the Chiddush is that since it's also this aspect of the house, and now basically the opening is now serving two functions, right? As you see on the diagram 83, okay, you have this threshing area over there, which is a whole operation. So if you looked at it only from the point of view that I can access the area now, you made the opening, right? You made that little, you see the gap between that fence and the house. You see that gap to get in. So I might say, well, maybe that gap is only there, is there, maybe it's only service the Beidari, and the fact that you have a doorway maybe wouldn't do anything, because I view it specifically for that. No, the Chiddush is that the doorway does allow you to see it from another perspective as well. There's a residential aspect, and that doorway now allows you to view the fencing as a valid hookah for dira. Okay, Kamashman, that's a chiddush. I would have thought it wouldn't be. It was only focused on the granary, and the answer is it's not. Let's take a look at Rashi. Right, if you opened up a doorway from the house to the rechava, to the back lot, and then you made the fencing, it's all good. Well, if you made the fencing after the doorway, pshita, the pesach l'psav hukaf shari. Of course, I know that if you make a doorway and then you surround it, shari hukaf l'shei pesach. You clearly surrounded it for the sake of the doorway that comes out of the house into the rechava. It's clear as day. The answer is no. Lo tzricha dizbei beidari. Gorin achar bayis. There's a granary behind the house. And this is before you surrounded it. See, when you made the fencing, everyone might not be clear. What do you make that fencing for? You made the fencing to surround you for your reading Mishpacha magazine in the back lot, or maybe you made the fencing to protect people from coming into the granary and taking the wheat illegally. Maybe that's why you made it, in which case that would not be called hukah fladira. But if you just surrounded it and you made those walls just to facilitate protection of the granary, that would not be called residential in nature, and that would therefore be still prohibited. Okay, Madatema, last Rashi on the page, Madatema, the Beidari Psicha, maybe I think he opened it for the Beidari. Lavadaita Lahakif Sham Rechava. It wasn't about surrounding the back lot for the doorway and the house and the people inside of it. Maybe it was for a completely different reason. The Chiddush is it's still, no, it's good. Even though you might have two purposes, one of the purposes certainly would be for residential, and that is enough to qualify as a valid surrounding of the Beis Hasayim for the purposes of dira. Okay.
Is Rashi saying that the reason that you had the opening, the Havamim is the reason you had the opening is to get to the granary, and it wasn't for the Rechava?
I think he's focusing on the wall. In other words, when you made the wall, what did you make the wall for? So in other words, the word's kasha was, well, if you made it a doorway and then you made a wall, obviously the wall is to facilitate the doorway and to protect your residential usage of that back lot. The answer is no, there was a granary there. And since there was this threshing area there, maybe you surrounded it for that purposes. And that would not be justified as a living, that's not called residential, that's not called ladira. The chiddush is that it does, we look at it as facilitating both. And included in their hekif is that's the way I understand Rashi. Gorin achraba is kodem hekif for rechava. So baratem adaita de beidori poschei v'lav adaita lahakif sham rechava. So baratem adaita de beidori poschei.
Just looking at the gears that Rashi has, the beidori poschei. He opened it for the beidori as opposed to gadra, or not say anything.
1 second, yeah. V'lavadaiti lahakif sham rechava. So then, what's the point? So what's
he didn't make the opening in order to enclose the rechava. He made the opening in order to get to the grain. So therefore,
okay, but
therefore the opening wasn't meant for the rechava.
So it's
when you makif it, that's not for the purpose of the bias of the Dorim, of the people who live there.
Well, okay, I mean
That's just,
yeah, I hear you. I hear. It does sound that way. I'm not sure why he needs that. I mean, in other words, if right, the Beidori Posche, so why did he make the doorway?
for to get to the grain.
No, right. And then when you makif it, I mean, so he's saying, in other words, maybe it's more fundamental that even the doorway doesn't represent. But if you ever make a doorway from your house to get to the grain, so that's not called the residential.
So therefore, when it's not hookah for shabdira, because
Right, you have to get back. Okay, in other words, at the end of the day, you have to get back to the hukuf. Why was it surrounded? Yeah. So if it's surrounded, so for some reason Rashi wants to do both. He wants to nullify the hukuf and he wants to nullify the Pesach. I'm not sure why I have to nullify the Pesach. It's really the main issue is not that let the Pesach be for the sake of you going out. But why you make the hekif? Okay, I'm not sure. Rashi seems to make an extra step there. I'm not sure why he needs it.
Just to be clear,
yeah.
The intention when you're making it is everything, and so now you're in Shabbos, and you go, wow, I have this enclosure, I'll just use it. That's the whole point. In other words, it's up until Shabbos starts, your intention had to be, well, I'm also going to make this an enclosure for my residential purposes. Is that
right.
the issue? It's
yeah.
intention up until Shabbos, but you could do it, change it?
Well, I mean, you can't build a fence on Shabbos. That's right. Everything clearly is happening before Shabbos.
So the minute before Shabbos starts, I go, oh my goodness, I forgot to have the intention of making this an enclosure for residential. That's still okay, right? Even though
you can't change. Well, yeah, no. This is about why you built it. Because I mean, if you built
I'm
retroactively, you're now saying you built it.
No. Can't I transform it before?
How? How are you going to transform it? You're going to knock it down and rebuild it?
No. Can't you? Because it's yours.
No.
Why?
Because you can't because you didn't do anything to the thing to change it. That's what we learned the other day. Is that if you want to change something that was built for non-residential use into residential use, you literally have to make an opening, rendering the enclosure not valid, then rebuild it again to make it valid.
So
you need physical actions. Your thoughts here?
To putting schach on a sukkah, you can't. You put it in prematurely.
Yeah,
so
similar.
You have to undo it and redo it.
Correct. Right. Exactly. You can't say after you put the schach up for some not valid reason. Now it's okay. Now I want it for shade. It's too late. When you put it up, you didn't put it up for shade. So, yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm not sure. What? Yeah, I might see. Referring to him, just to know why he needs that. Okay. So let's next Gemara. Karfeif, 5 lines from the bottom. Karfeif Yosef Beis Asayim. If you have an opening that's more than 2 saws, open space that's more than 2 Beis Asayim, Shukul Fladira, that was enclosed for the purposes of residential. So you know that if it's enclosed residentially, then everything is good, and you can now use and carry in the entire area. Because if you're living there, even though it's vast, and more than 5,000 square amas, that doesn't bother me as long as it's residential. But now, unfortunately, something happened, and the rains came, and your open area that was for residential use is now full of water. The smali mayim now became full of water, which l'chayra renders it unusable, similar to the to the plantings when you planted those seeds in the vegetables there in your yard. So that also rendered the chutzner and changed it into a karfeif. So what about water? What does water do to your karfeif area? What does it do to it? So let's see. So karfeif Yosef Beis Asayim shukol v'dir v'nesmali mayim, and it was filled up with water. So Rabbanon meima kizroim dami. The Rabbanon thought to say water makes it as non-functional as is roim. You don't spazier and have a nice walk through the tomato patches. That's not what you do. Trees, we said yes, but not patches of vegetables. V'yoser. And it would be usher to therefore carry there any longer, because you've now rendered that karfeif not for residential areas. So Amul Luhu Rav Abba Avua the Rav Brei Rav Misharsha. So the Rav Abba, the father of Rav, the son of Mshasha, says, Hochi Amrinu Shmei de Rava. This is, however, what was said in the name of Rava, a different attitude, a different approach. Mayim kinetoim dami, vishari. Water does not turn the karfeif into a garden. It turns it into an orchard. And an orchard, we said, is a place where people do walk and do use, and it still maintains residential aspects that would allow you to carry in it. So instead of looking at like zroim, which would make it unable to be carried in, we look at it like plantings of trees, which is musa to carry, v'shari. Okay. Amar Meimar says, the only time, says a Meimar, on Rava's last disagreement with the earlier Amira, that's only true if you're still able to use the water in a way that was functional for drinking and for drinking purposes and for typical living aspects. But let's say that water is so muddy and dirty that it's not fit for anything other than just complaining about it. Avlo chazil tashmishta loy. But if it's not able to be used, then the water does revert the status of the place into a garden, which we said is a place where people don't walk, and it's not viewed as a residential area, and you cannot carry there. And one more qualification, even if it is fitting to be used for drinking purposes and therefore viewed as a residential usage, more like a orchard as opposed to a garden, it's only true if there isn't a depth of 10 tfachim, the area of a base of Sayim. That's when I'll grant Rava's point that if it's not 10 tfachim deep, then we're going to view it as residential. But if you have a tremendous area of 5,000 square amas of water deeper than 10 tfachim, that will render it unacceptable as a karfeif, and therefore okay. But if it's more than 10 tfachim deep, then we're going to view that as a separate domain, not part of your residential usage, and it will be usher. To which the Gemara then says, who was it? That was a Meimar. So a Meimar came along and qualified Rava, and the Gemara ends up saying, well, no, I don't agree with this whole qualification. V'lav milsi, it's not true. Rav Ashi's qualification, okay, that even if it was chazil tashmish, that even though it was fitting for drinking, if it was more than 10 tfachim deep in an area of a base of Sayim, of a more than base of Sayim, it would be usher. The Gemara says, no, not true. Lav milsi mididave akar de peri. It's no different than a pile of fruit, and a pile of fruit is viewed as an accessible, usable, residential type usage, and therefore it's even if it's more than 10 tfachim, as long as the water is drinkable, it's good to go, and you can carry in that area. And the water does not block the karfe from being still seen as being hukaf ladira. Okay, so we've got a lot of different opinions here. So Rashi, on top Rashi, Chazal Tashmishta, says, so that was a Meimas point, that you're only going to be allowed to use it if it was fit for usage. L'shtia, for drinking. The Ein Locha Dira Mu'ula Mizu. Okay, there is no a living aspect more in advantageous and more serviceable more than this. If you can use it for drinking water, then clearly you're going to access that area for drinking, and that's going to make it residential. Okay, but then we came with another qualification. Even if it is drinkable, okay, it can't be she'omko yosra beisasayim. Klaimar, meaning to say, shein imka shomayim nifshat b'roichav yosra beisasayim, that the depth of the water cannot be spread out over an area more than 2 saz, more than 5,000 square amas. V'yonko shel stamayim levatam u'kaimai b'din karka yutfachim. And the depth of standard water, to nullify it from it being ground, right? What takes something away from being a pond on the ground to a separate body of water? The depth of 10. The depth of 10 takes it away from being an extension of the ground and makes it its own domain. Okay, Kedam Mesachus Shabbos, like we say Mesachus Shabbos, Imhoya Rakak Mayim, Kam Rakak Mayim Pachas Miyutfakim, Miyutfakim. So Rakak Mayim is seen as an extension of the ground and not as its own separate area. But if it's more than 10 Tfachim, no longer is it a Rakak Shamayim, it's not some kind of a, pond or, just a little pool of little water that you're walking through as part of your walk on the ground, but it's a separate entity that takes on its own halachic, place. So therefore, same thing over here is true when it comes to the base of Sayim. The minute it is more than 2 saws and it's 10 tfachim deep along the entire area, it is viewed as a separate area. And the Gemara says V'lav milsi, but it's not true. I don't agree with what was just said by Rav Ashi. The Gemara ends up, it's no different than a pile of fruit. But next Rashi, Kaya de Pere, Kri shel Peros Gavoya Sara, V'rochiv Krachav Beis Kur. Let's say you had an incredibly large area of your Granny Smith that you stored in this big area that was more than 2 sons, more than 5,000 square amas, or even Beis Kur, which is even bigger. Loy but Lataras Dira, Misham. Okay, it's not, that doesn't nullify it. If you have a big, tremendous area where you're going to access fruits and grain and food, that's part of it's a part of your living area. It's no different than a, big, you got your closets, your pantries, right? You got just humongous pantry where you access food. Well, that's still part of your house. The fact that you have a pantry maybe 10 times bigger than your house, that doesn't change it from being a pantry. So just like fruit would not nullify your house from being connected to this area and be viewed as a facilitator of your living. Okay, there's no difference between water that's used for drinking and fruits used for eating. It would all be considered a facilitation of the house and not as a separate domain. And another pshat of what that means, kari de peri, lishnachrin midavia kari de peri, Sheicha Amuka, it would be a pit instead of being a high area of where you get the fruits from. It would be like a lower area. You had a big, tremendous hole in the ground that you piled up fruits in there to access fruits. That too, Shematzin Shamperes, you hide fruits there for safekeeping. Shafi Shamukim Shamharba, even though it's very deep, Not Lehem b'Shabbos, you would be able to take it out of Shabbos, take it out from there on Shabbos because it's surrounded, okay, and it's for the purpose of usage that's residential in nature because it serves the house, people living in the house. So that would not be called Sholei Hukah Fadira, even if it was deep, 10 deep, or water 10 deep, or anything along those lines. If it was able to facilitate the house, it's all good. Okay, it's the only difference between the first version and the second. Does karya mean a pile, or does karya mean a hole? That deep, a ditch that deep that you would store the fruits there. Okay, but it's essentially the same idea. Okay, next Gemara. Okay, Ahu Rechava. Ahi Rechava deve bepum nahara. So no diagrams here, but in your Gemara, if you have the art scroll, you've got a good diagram of a Rechava, a back lot, deve bepum nahara. Okay, that was in the place of Pum Nahara, name of a place. And this back lot had a lot of interesting aspects to it. So let's see, I don't know if he has a diagram, if Pirush Chai has one. But what was about this Rechava? The Chad Gisa v'Pasach Lamasa. On the one hand, on the one end of the lot, you had an alley that led out to the Rishus Harabim. So you had Wilshire Boulevard, okay, wonderful Rishus Harabim. That a T formed that an alleyway, which very often, right, that's how it works. The alleyway is the straight up end of the T, and the Wilshire is the top of the T. So it's a nice global view there. Okay, so
up at the top is the Rishus Harabim, way up.
Well, let's see, Rechava. Yeah, is that Rishus Harabim up there? Yeah. Okay, fine. Right, so the top. We're looking at the T from the other area. Okay, fine. Right, so the Rechava. Right, you see the Rechava in the middle. You see the Mavui. Okay, which is now the bottom, okay, of the, and where's Rishus Harabim?
Way up.
Oh, way up there, wow. Okay, so the Rishus Harabim is, okay, so exactly like we said, the Rishus Harabim is the top of the T, that's Wilshire Boulevard, you got a nice long Mavui, that goes from Wilshire down to the Rechava, which is somebody's back lot, which is open, right, which is behind the houses as you see in the diagram. Then you've got, okay, let's keep going. And what is on the other side of the Rechava, the near side to us, looking at the diagram, what else is there? The Chad Gish on the other side have a pasuk l'shvil shel kramim. The Rechava opens up to a row in between vineyards. Okay, it's a nice fluffy type of whatever it looks like a crowd. It's not a crowd of people. That is vines growing in the Napa Valley. Okay, and we just merged the Napa Valley with Wilshire Boulevard. Okay, so you've got vineyards growing, and you've got a nice alleyway, a walkway between the vineyards where people have to walk, obviously, get to where they have to get to. And where does it end? As you keep going, now we're going to move to, to Monterey. We're going to take all of California in here in this little picture. And then it ends right by the water where there's a nice quick drop and you've got the water there. So this is one beautiful little area here, okay, overlooking the Pacific Ocean or whatever water you want to make, right? So you see the waves in the picture, that's water. You got a 10-foot drop as you walk at the end of the vineyard path. It walks right into the 10 tefach drop, okay, which means it's a wall, okay, and then you get the water. So you've got a lot of things going on here. So what's the issue? The issue is carrying. Okay, where are you able to carry? What are you able to carry on Shabbos? Where can you go? Where can't you go? So what's the deal here? So let's keep going. On the other side, you had the Rechava open to a road of a vineyard. And the road of the vineyard on the other end ended at the bank of a river. Okay, and there was water on the other side of that bank, and the bank had a straight drop or at least a steep enough drop to qualify as a wall, as we've learned already many times, that the wall goes straight up and serves as a wall to the road. So you're surrounded on that area as well. So both of these things at the other ends of the Rechava have three walls. Because one thing we didn't mention yet, that there's a Tzuras HaPesach right by Wilshire. There's a Tzuras HaPesach there that closes that up, and therefore you've got three walls. Okay, we'll see. Maybe we're just going to add that. Let's see. Okay, well, we have to get to that point. So Amar Abaye. So the challenge is, how are we going to carry in this, and what are you going to have to do? Because the Rechava is not Hukal Fadira, because that Rechava does not service the houses. It's more than two saws. It's therefore not carryable, so to speak, and isn't it going to mess everybody up in terms of being open to that Rechava? So Amar Abaye Hechinavid. What are you supposed to do? How do I make this good? If I want to make it that I can carry, okay, from in the krumim, in the, let's say, the vineyard path, and all I want to do now is just make a nice fence on top of the riverbank. Can you do that? Can you make a fence on top of the riverbank and say like this: since I'm now enclosing it, I'm enclosing that area to allow you to carry in the kerem, in the vineyard, that somehow that's also going to help to make new fencing for the Rechava. Is that going to be able to work? Well, clearly not. Okay, he says, you can't make a fence on top of a fence that already is fenced in. That bank already is a valid wall. So what, you're making a new wall? So good, shkayach, you can see this wall, as opposed to the riverbank that you couldn't see. Shkayach, but that doesn't, halachically, nothing, you didn't do anything. You just made a nicer wall. And so advancing a wall is not going to do it. Okay? Maybe you want to make and enclose the vineyard on the other side. So the bank is already good. You got a wall on the bank, but you got only three enclosures. You're open on the fourth side. Let me make it Tzuras HaPesach where the kerem, the road of the kerem, opens into the Rechava. That makes that area completely enclosed. And once that enclosure will work for the kerem, for the road in the kerem, it'll work to further enclose the rechava in a way that's valid, because I want to change the status of the rechava. Okay, we'll have to see Rashi more so, but let's just finish this issue. Maybe that will work, and let me make it Tzuras Pesach in the area that's directly about to go into the rechava. Abai doesn't like that either. He says, Asa Gamle Shadyan Lo. The camels are going to come. It's a very narrow area. If you're going to have camels walking through there to get, I don't know why camels need to come into the vineyard, but you want to bring camels into the vineyard. Okay, maybe you want to give them, some water by the ocean there or something. I don't know, but whatever reason is, that's not wide enough to handle camels. What's going to happen if you make 2 doorposts and a string across? What's going to happen is that the camels are going to knock over the Tzuras Pesach. It's not a valid Tzuras Pesach that has any ability to last. It's not going to be good. Therefore, any enclosure on this side of things doesn't seem to work. To make it on the river, it's already done. To make it on the other side, it's not going to work because Tzuras Pesach is just not going to cut it. So what are you going to do? So this is the challenge that I have. I think we should catch up the Rashis now and then see probably tomorrow how we're going to resolve this challenge. Okay, let's take a look at Rashi. Let's just begin to start. Hahi Rechava. Okay, about 8 lines down in the narrow lines. Hahi Rechava Yosem Sayim Havev Lo Huk Filadira. This back lot was more than 2 saws. It's a big one. It was more than 5,000 square amas, and it was not surrounded for the purposes of living. Because at that point, you don't have any access from the house to the Rechava. Okay, Pumnahara. It was in the city, the place called Pumnahara. Chad Gisa Pesuach Lamasa. Lamavi Shabir Shekol Ruchavazu. It was a town alleyway servicing Wilshire Boulevard, and it ended in this Ruchava. So the alleyway, obviously, it serviced a lot of homes, a lot of chatzeros in the alley, but at the end of the day, where did it end? Where did it end? It ended into this Ruchava, which is not a place you can carry into. So you got some problems. On the one hand, you had the mavli on the top end of the rechav. You had this mavli that went into Rishus Harabim. On the bottom end, you had a shul shel krumim during Hayibah. You had people living there, and that's going to be something that we're going to need to know for tomorrow. That there are people living. That's why if you see the diagram, right, you see those little homes inside the vineyard area. Okay, people were living in that vineyard, even though it looks a little crowded and messy, but you actually had homes there that could be facilitated, by usage. We'll touch upon. Okay, I think let's pick this up tomorrow. Shkayach.
Are we regular time?